This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Tuesday, September the 9th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly, David Williams. He's the producer. You'll be speaking with Dave when you pick up the phone to give us a call to get in the queue and get on the air. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So I've been keeping you up to date with Canadian women at the World Cup of Rugby. Of course, they're in the quarterfinals coming up against 7th-ranked Australia this coming weekend. Canada ranked number 2 in the world. On the men's side, ranked 24th, they're playing at the Pacific Nations Cup. It's a World Cup qualifier. And when Japan beat the Americans over the weekend, that automatically made Canada qualify for the 2027 World Cup of Rugby in Australia. We didn't qualify in 2023, the first time in history, so we're going back to the World Cup. And we've got the semifinals coming up this weekend where we take on Fiji. Tough, big ask. All right, Ryan Clough, I was watching the sports news on Sunday to see that Ryan Clough had resigned his position as the assistant general manager with the San Jose Sharks. Then, next thing you know, on Monday, he's named as the assistant general manager of the New York Rangers. So good for him. That's a pretty prestigious franchise to be working with. So good for Clough, of course, from here, from up the shore. Just a couple of random U.S. Open notes. On this date in 1979, John McEnroe won his first Grand Slam title when he beat fellow American Vitas Gerulaitis in straight sets. This one gets pretty interesting. So, at that time, Gerulaitis was one of the top players in the world, and in 1983, he famously challenged Martina Navratilova to play the 100th ranked player on the men's side, a fellow named Derek Tarr. He said anybody in the top 100, even the 100th ranked player, could beat Martina Navratilova, who was dominating women's tennis at the time. The match never took place, but man, oh man, can you imagine if something like that was said today? Cancel would happen pretty quick. It's not the first time. In 1983, 10 years after Billie Jean King famously beat Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes, there's another one coming too. On the women's side, Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1, she's going to play Nick Kyrgios in another Battle of the Sexes. The date and the location yet to be determined, but apparently that is coming. And Gerulaitis challenged Navratilova to play the 100th ranked man. Anyways, keep going. If you watch sports, and this is bigger than just for sports fans, it's the whole world of sports betting. As soon as the federal government made it legal to bet on single games, you knew it was going to be a cash cow. Billions upon billions of dollars are bet on games in this country, year in and year out. Now there's yet another report. Like I remember talking about a 2024 report in The Lancet about gambling. There's another one out there and some distinct worries coming from the Canadian Medical Association. They're talking about sports betting and youth. I mean, in the palm of your hand is a sports book. You can bet all day long on individual games during the game. The updated prop bets are available. They're talking about it being a huge problem for youth. Most people who have a gambling addiction, so says the research, start before they were the age of 19. So they're calling for some restrictions on some social media platforms that youth famously use to try to nip this in the bud. So if you have a child who is a sports fan and does indeed focus in on betting, whether or not they quote-unquote borrowed mom or dad's credit card, it can get away from them in a hurry. They talk about the mental health issues that come with being a loser on the gambling side. The house wins. Some people win a bet every now and then, of course they do. But sports betting and the odds makers, they have it down to a science. Money lost in gambling is extraordinary. So everywhere you look when you watch it on TV, if you're at the games, they project the betting sites onto the ice or onto the football field, so you cannot get away from it. So it's just another warning coming for parents of youth across the country who may indeed be actively gambling on who knows what. I mean, if you look at some of the stats, there's people gambling on chess tournaments, people gambling on tiddlywinks, people gambling on absolutely everything. And of course, it is an addiction. It's a recognized concern, and for youth in particular, problems in gambling, and if it leads to big losses, may indeed lead to things like committing a crime. They even talk about suicidal ideation amongst youth if indeed they have a problem with gambling. So just put it out there because there's yet another report. Okay, let's keep going. First day of lectures at Memorial University. We know that they're trying to achieve some $20 million in savings, and the enrollment numbers are curious. People will say, well, the tuition that has now been doubled, of course, has pushed away some new potential students at Memorial University. And then there's fewer youth than there once was as well. So I've heard Dr. Janet Morrison, the new president and vice chancellor at MUN, and a couple of different media outlets in the last couple of days, talking about trying to provide a vibrant atmosphere for learning, but goes on to very quickly say a viable atmosphere for the university into the long term. The maintenance deficit is one thing. The reduction in income, revenue coming in versus operating expenses going out, it's an unmanageable situation. We need to do right, not only in the K-12 system, but we need to do the best we can in post-secondary, of course, including Memorial University. So what does that look like insofar as the government's involvement here? You know, the government has eased their stance on transfer dollars to Memorial University, but then you look at some things that could have been important into the future, like the Office of Public Engagement core funding gone. Core funding into the Harris Centre gone. Now, there can't be project-specific funding afforded to the Harris Centre, which is important. The Harris Centre researches who we are, where we're going, as a people, as a province. And that core funding is no longer there. If you want to take on some Memorial University conversation, let's do it. Also see that there was a protest this morning outside of Stephenville Primary, organised by former principal Wally Childs. He has a child in the school who has special needs. So they're talking about student supports that are not in place. And the whole concept of having to try to catch up after a sluggish start in school, especially if you have the need for additional supports. When I spoke to it last week, when I spoke to it yesterday, lo and behold, and not surprisingly, a couple of families picked up on the trying to catch up if you get off to a bad start. And they report that their child repeatedly over the course of the last few years has not had the supports required on day 1, week 1, month 1. Consequently, they never caught up, ever. So when you talk about someone or children falling through the cracks, it just can't stand. This can't be something that we just shrug our shoulders. I mean, just imagine how many children will legitimately never actually get through junior high school with the adequate amount of support required to actually have absorbed the curriculum, to be put on a pathway for gainful, meaningful, prosperous, viable employment into the future. It's simply not good enough. So Wally Childs, I don't know how the protest went or how it was received, but if you're listening to the program, you're more than welcome to join us on the show this morning or at your convenience. Yesterday I had a call from the president of the FFAW, Dwan Street. It was about the big processors, that is Royal Greenland and Quincy. All right. So apparently, now there has been a protest on the wharf to keep the boat away, a foreign vessel, to try to sell sea cucumbers to Royal Greenland Quincy. I don't know what the status of that is this morning. But there was a panel negotiated price of 69 cents a pound. They are only paying this French vessel 50 cents for their product. A bigger implication here is that some other small processors were abiding by the 69 cents, but now they see Royal Greenland getting away with it, so now they're offering 50 cents. So, of course, that ripple effect was predictable. Where is the government? I mean, the processing licenses are under the auspices and authority of the provincial government. If we have a process which has been contentious for years about how a price is set, even though it's a pretty flawed process in and of itself, but if a processor is going to be able to, into the future, just ignore the price-setting panel's recommendations, ignore the requirements involved with their provincial license, where to from here? So if I can just say, 69 cents, I'll just get a boat from St. Pierre, pay them 50 cents, Bob's your uncle, bigger profit, off we go. That's not how it's supposed to work. So haven't heard a peep from the company, certainly haven't heard a peep from the provincial government, but this is a big issue and it's bigger than sea cucumbers. It will indeed have ramifications into every species, possibly every species into the future, if they just find out that there's an ability to get away with it, to ignore the price, to pay what they see fit, buy from who they see fit. Anyway, you want to talk about that or anything else in that industry? Let's go. Okay, so the Prime Minister was in town yesterday, and as they call it, a flurry of announcements. First, an Atlantic Tariff Relief Fund for small and medium-sized business. $80 million out of what is a federal pot of more than $1 billion. We're told that it's more than proportionate to the population and the GDP for the region. Okay, whether it be impacts in the seafood industry or agriculture, whatever the case may be, there will be some relief supports there, and obviously that's a good thing. Whether we look at the new supply chain interruptions, some need to innovate, to modernize, to expand markets, whatever the case may be. So that's there. Also, talking about ongoing discussions regarding federal disaster relief fund for those who lost their homes or businesses during the wildfires this season. All right. It's good, and fingers crossed that money does indeed flow, but time is of the essence. And you can only imagine the heartbreak and anxiety of those who have been impacted directly by the fires, whether it be from volunteer firefighters, contract firefighters, support organizations, and yes, people who lost their homes. So with the not knowing what's next, not knowing what support may or may not be there, is not helpful. So what does it take for a timeline to figure out what that money might look like? People need to know. Same thing with provincial support. People just need to know. You're going to be there or you're not. It won't be a good thing, obviously, if they're not there to support, but let's go. And I'm not suggesting that it's as fundamental as just plucking a number out of thin air and saying, here's the money, give it to the province and divvy it up as you see fit. No, but let's go. In addition to those two concerns addressed by the Prime Minister yesterday, and of course a bunch of Liberals in tow, as we're all anticipating a provincial election call sooner than later, let's get into the major project stuff. Oh, on the wildfire front. Also some fairly vague mentions about water bomber capacity, fire prevention, the investment that's ongoing with satellite monitoring, all good. But I wasn't there, so I didn't hear every single utterance. But we do know that things are changing. It's not just about fighting fires from the air with water bombers. So we did indeed employ the Fire Raptor helicopter. Is that part of the conversation yesterday? I'll just ask any of the reporters or people who heard the entirety of the scrum. Same thing with the Thunder Wasp drones that are being used in British Columbia, albeit experimentally at this moment in time. So we've got to expand the toolbox to include everything that can fight a fire, not just a water bomber, because we know even trying to find a used water bomber or to get the fifth water bomber repaired is going to take time. To order a brand new purpose-built water bomber from de Havilland is going to take years, 5, 6, maybe more years. So the wildfire conversation, certainly happy to take it on. Then it's the major project stuff. Let's start with Beta Nord. I'm not even sure what's going on here. So it's on the list of 32 projects for potential fast-track involvement, including the federal government. I'm almost tired of talking about the outstanding hundreds of millions of dollars in royalties that have to be paid to the United Nations, but no specific mention of what that means for the feds to be involved here. The federal government's role has pretty much concluded. The company has been released from the environmental impact statement. They're talking about final investment decisions sometime next year. So what is the role of the feds? They talk about signing the cooperation agreements, and that's all good. But things like the province being the primary beneficiary of that field and all other fields, which for the most part, for most people listening to the program, will be jobs. So does the federal government even play any role in that conversation? Not that I know of. It's a negotiation between the province and the operator, in this case Equinor. So jobs will be the key conversation, whether you listen to Bob Fiander from Trades NL or every tradesperson out there who knows that opportunities, even for topside construction, in addition to subsea, and whatever job can be done and filled and executed here in the province is critical. What's the federal government's role? No idea. Then it's Gull Island. So they're talking about it being a nation-building project once again. Apparently, federal loan guarantees are not part of the conversation at this moment in time. So what is the government's role? It's fine to say it's on the list and it's a nation-building project, and I think it probably is, given the fact that more than one province will be involved in the development at Gull Island, and anything under the Upper Churchill MOU, happy to talk about it. But this does have implications on the fast track towards definitive agreements. If there is federal government support, for instance, the Quebec government is lobbying aggressively for federal monies into transmission. That changes the whole how much we get, how much they get conversation. It just does. Same thing with the possibility, and no real mention of this yesterday either, of what is mythical at this point is a east-west energy corridor. So what does it even mean? It's not a bad thing. The Bill C5 and fast-tracking projects and reducing timelines and a major project office open in Calgary, all probably encouraging for industry. But what does the federal government actually have to do with this? What was not mentioned yesterday, nor do I think there was any questions asked about a nation-building project that has been deemed exactly that by the Liberal government, and that's the fixed link. I mean, they've said it. Successive ministers have had in their mandate letter to pursue the possibility to build a connection between Labrador and the island of Newfoundland. It's in the Canada Infrastructure Bank. They've called it a nation-building project, but no talk of that yesterday, as far as I know. And if I missed something, feel free to fill me in. So there's that. Then there's the critical mineral conversation and a proposed 175-kilometre road linking a Quebec mine and Newfoundland and Labrador critical minerals, access to the port in Sept. Not so sure we heard a whole lot about that yesterday, even though in the concept of supply chains and nation building, obviously critical minerals in demand globally, but that's in play. Leila Evans, of course, the member for Torngat Mountains, saying it is not the way it should have been handled insofar as the folks in Labrador bear what she calls the burden of the road, and a lot of the maximum benefit going to people in Quebec. And we're happy to take it on if you're so inclined. Last one on energy. So the Prime Minister's been asked many times about pipelines, and it was just dominated so much of the conversation in the federal election, pipelines. So we know that we all chipped in on twinning the Trans Mountain, but the conversation now is, the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, said there will be pipeline proponents coming forward in the near future, and there were comments made in June. At this moment, nobody. So we'll hear things like, well, the regulatory uncertainty and the protests and the timeline and the expense and all the rest of it. But is there even a company out there that is talking about building another pipeline? I don't know if we're ever going to see one that had been proposed in the past from Alberta to the East Coast. But even for another pipeline to bring Alberta bitumen to the Pacific Coast, is anybody out there even talking about it? Other than politicians and supporters of the industry? I mean, even with the twinning of the Trans Mountain, it's not even operating at capacity. Some of that might be tariffs and some of that might be fees, but keep setting records for production and revenue and profit in the oil sands. But yet, I haven't heard anyone come forward as a proponent, nor has anybody in the country. Anyway, and there's plenty of LNG possibilities and plenty of green lights given to LNG possibilities in the country, but oil dominates so much of the political conversation. I understand why. In provinces like ours, and provinces like Alberta, but in the big scheme of things, the oil industry is less than 5% of GDP. But we talk about it like it's 50%. And we know the importance in this province insofar as treasury of the province goes and filling the coffer. Same thing in Alberta. And I think the percentage of the GDP in Alberta is like 27% or something like that, so not insignificant. All right, how are we doing on the phone there, Dave? We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Oh, on the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding. We have to follow along with how the conversation is going in Quebec, obviously, right? Politically speaking, and even the Premier here, John Hogan, talks about the aggressive timeline of next April. You have to believe that that was more driven by the province of Quebec than our province. Why? Politics. Francois Legault and his coalition Avenir Québec are in the toilet in the polls. Most recent polling shows them at about 11% of the popular vote. They could indeed go to the next election and win 0 seats. 0. Going from government to winning 0 seats. It happens in Quebec. They churn through the parties quicker than any other province in the country. So when we talk about independent oversight and whether anything like that will ever come to pass beyond what's currently in place, I'll leave it up to you. But any of the intricacies, concerns, questions, and or support for any of these big projects, let's talk about it. We're taking your emails, openline@vocm.com. When we come back, we're having a great show. I can feel it in my water. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Quick traffic note: accident on the Outer Ring Road, eastbound before the Allendale Road. Traffic is bumper to bumper, backed up all the way to the crossroads, so avoid at all costs. We hope everyone is okay. Let's see here. Let's begin this morning on line number 1. Say good morning to the man behind the Uncle Gnarly blog. That's Des Sullivan. And morning, Des. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. Hope you had a good summer.
Not too bad, thanks. Hopefully the same for you.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to talk about oversight this morning, Paddy, for a couple of minutes. I won't take a lot of your time, but I think that the reference to oversight doesn't really get a whole lot of emphasis in the way that it might. And I did hear on your program the consumer advocate Dennis Brown speaking the other day, and he wasn't saying the things that I would have expected him to say. And I say that in the context of Muskrat Falls, of course, because both he and I were interveners in that process. He heard it all, I heard it all, along with others, and we heard a lot about oversight and the extent to which the oversight committee that was established by, I think, was Premier from the Premier from Corner Brook, Tom Marshall. That essentially it was a fake oversight process. It was appointed after Derek Daly blurted out that to a reporter's question that the government had no independent oversight, and that they were depending on the independent engineer. And throughout that process, it was acknowledged the government wasn't even getting those reports. So the point is that the oversight committee at that time was set up under duress. It was set up because the government were embarrassed. They had nothing in place, and they went and appointed a bunch of deputy ministers to the process, and their reports were all controlled by Nalcor and edited by Nalcor, and they ended up being presented to the public as somehow independent oversight when it was anything but. It was anything but an independent version. So you have to ask yourself, is the current process any more independent than what was there for Muskrat Falls? And why would it be? Well, if I might just go on for 1 minute, Patty, let's remember this is another process set up under duress. This was not a process. Let me just say this. I remember James L. Gordon. James L. Gordon was a guy, a very highly experienced engineer from Ontario who sat on a number of oversight boards, including for C of Elco. And he used to shake his head, and he'd write his emails, and he'd comment on the phone that it was incredibly surprising. He said that Nalcor would not set up an oversight board for Muskrat. And of course, we all learned afterwards why they didn't. They were the oversight board would have laughed at them. In this case, this board too was set up under duress. In other words, it wasn't set up, as most oversight boards are, to be an integral part of a process. So what we have is a version that basically the opposition, the NDP, and the independent members of the House Assembly who were not satisfied with what occurred and how the MOU was arrived at. The government again said, okay, we'll throw you a few bones, we'll set up this oversight panel. But in fact, you have to ask yourself, and I think the public have to ask themselves, has anything changed? Because number one, if you look at the objectives in the independent panel's own statements, they say that their responsibility is to provide reliable oversight on the progress of negotiations and to establish a direct and effective, transparent communications channel to the public. And it goes on. But there has been absolutely no channel established with the public up to this point, number one. Number two, when perhaps the most capable person on the panel, not diminishing the others, but the guy with the analytical skills to deal with whether this was a commercial proposition that made sense. I'm referring to the MOU. He resigns back in May. We don't hear about it. I mean, the first thing that Dennis Brown ought to have done is announce his resignation to the public and explained why he had resigned. At the same time, if Dennis Brown didn't take that initiative, the government ought to have. But in fact, nothing was said. It was all kept quiet until this gentleman went out and finally put out why he decided to resign. And what did he say? Right? He said the independence of the panel became impaired. And I no longer believe the panel's reports would meet the public's expectations and need for an independent analysis. Now, Paddy, if I were the Premier, which is not going to happen, I'll acknowledge, if I were the Premier, I'd be pretty concerned. Having read those kinds of comments, I would immediately say, where is the oversight that I insisted on having performed, and which I having made a commitment to the opposition? As for Mr. Brown as the chair, and in his case, he's the consumer advocate, so so the bar is very high for him. He ought to have said, I am deeply concerned that this member feels this way, and I want to get to the bottom of why this is the case and communicate to the public accordingly.
You know what I'd like to know, Des? I'd like to know specifically what he means. Because it is a very broad statement, and I read it. I actually quoted that exact quote to Dennis Brown in the form of a question. I'd like to know what he means by that. Because
I'm sorry, Paddy, by what statement are you referring to?
The comment from Mr. Wilson that said, the independence of the panel became impaired, and I no longer believe the panel's reports would meet the public's expectations. Yeah. What I would ask Mr. Wilson, if I had the chance, is to give me an example, because I think we can read the broad reference that Mr. Wilson makes, and it is very troubling, and it should be very troubling to everybody, is what he actually means. Like, is it not having access to specific pieces of information? Is it having hands tied that you're not allowed to release certain parts of information that would not and should not be considered commercially sensitive? I understand protections on that front, but I'd like to know exactly what he means.
Yes, and that's absolutely necessary, but it's made necessary reasons as well. If this were a case where the government had begun the process properly, went out and consulted with the public, because don't forget, you've got to go back to the 70s on this. Now, you probably was a young boy, and I was quite a bit older, but I remember those days like they were yesterday. And there was a very high feeling throughout Newfoundland about what had transpired, especially as we went into the 70s and 80s when electricity prices expanded immensely, and people began to see that we had given away this phenomenal resource for a pittance. And for now, right, these same people who certainly said over and over again, because I remember this stuff, that it would never happen again for the government to have gone off and done everything on their own secretly, pretty much, without laying out any terms, any objectives, any guidelines, no benchmarks for an oversight committee to follow. I mean, they made it virtually impossible for an oversight committee like this to operate effectively anyway. So when you take that into account, in addition to the fact that now you've got a member who says, and there's only it's a 3-member board, Paddy, not 16. So the communications is pretty tight there. It's not as if you've got, yes, it's different people will have different views, but there aren't many options when you've only got 3 people on a board. So when a key member says, look, this is not working for me, I am not allowed to provide the independent analysis that I want to make, then yes, troublesome is a good word, but it's probably not strong enough. And in that context, we need to hear from the chair properly, Mr. Brown, and we need to hear from the Premier as to why they did not take initiative immediately and consult with this gentleman, consult with the public, and let us know why. Let us know, to put it bluntly, whether they were serious about oversight. Yeah. And given the experience that I had with Muskrat, I'm seeing repetition, Paddy, and I don't want to see repetition.
They did let us know, but in a whisper. And, with so much that's going on, it's sometimes hard to catch every single whisper that goes around. So I'll put that much out there. just for the facts of the matter, and I'd also like to know the extent with which we are dealing with companies like J.P. Morgan Chase, Stryker Elliott, McInnes Cooper, Power Advisory, because they're involved, but to what extent I don't know. My biggest concern with this is that any of the fluctuations of the reality on the ground into the future are not allowed to be considered by the oversight panel. So regardless of the numbers of people or the organizations they talk about are dealing with, it's only what's contained in the MOU itself is even up for discussion, is even up for oversight. No, what happens if the federal government gets involved in the province of Quebec. Nothing about what happens if and when we're able to have a free flow of power throughout the country or into the southern or the northeastern United States. Those are the things that give me bigger pause than who's on the panel.
Absolutely. But what you are describing, and you're spot on, what you're describing should have been the part of the terms of reference or the goals and objectives of any mandate given a negotiating panel, right? A negotiating committee. Here, we don't even know today what the government's objectives were. Was it a free and open transmission as we had been seeking since the 1960s and denied? You know, was it? Did we look for market access by companies in the U.S. and Ontario and Western Canada and elsewhere to see who might want our power and be prepared to pay market prices for it? Did we even look for that? We don't know. And you know what? Something else we don't know, Patty. When I look at the amount of power that's available for recall over this 51 years, I'm saying to myself, these guys didn't even think that Newfoundland might have an economic development strategy. Right? No one ever thought in this province that we might call up the chair of Meta or Google or some or Nvidia or someone else, some of the other major companies that are now talking about massive need for electricity. We never thought about how Labrador might enter into that equation. I mean, that is unforgivable. I
suppose, but those big companies, we're at that point talking about commercial industrial rates for very few jobs, data centers, AI. Like, I don't know why that's a prime focus for others as opposed to potential mining expansion, which comes with decades of royalties, hundreds of jobs, much different.
The jobs you're talking about, Patty, are solely the two expansion projects and Gull. We are paying. We would be paying, based on this MOU, an enormous price for those short-term jobs. And as we saw in the 60s, when the project was done, we're sucking our thumb. Yeah. We don't even get a decent water royalty out of it.
I'm making a specific reference to how much power would be required for end cost-benefit analysis of jobs, expansion, tax base, royalties, those types of things. Data centers, I know why people are big on it, because big tech is big on it. That's a red flag for me. If Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg want to deregulate it to the ends of the earth, that's a red flag for me. And it doesn't create much in the way of wealth. It just creates a lot of wealth for the Amazons and the Metas of the world.
But Patty, with respect, you don't see any, not just an industrial strategy that might cater to technology. You don't see any industrial strategy in how this MOU was created.
Yeah, I didn't say we did. I'm just, thinking about the amount of power required for different types of applications, and AI just seems to be a waste of power. Regardless of whether it was Hydro-Quebec or Fortis or Goldman Sachs or J.P. Morgan Chase, we needed a partner to get any power out of here, no matter how we slice it. And I know people have a built-in or baked-in distrust of the province of Quebec and Hydro-Quebec, but at some point, to get power out of here, required a partner of some variety.
And that's fair enough, but we needed the right to be able to choose that partner, not allow it to impose itself again as it had done in the 1969 contract.
Yeah, no, point taken.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have decried this over and over and over again for the last 50-odd years. And here we are again doing it a second time. I mean, you have to ask yourself, what was government thinking? So to come to a point here, Patty. I mean, some people talk about different forms, better forms of oversight than what's been established. So that's clearly not going to be very difficult at all. But I'm not sure that either process is going to be worthwhile to the public unless this thing is reopened so the government lays out what its objectives are, allow public input. People forget, Patty. People forget that when we bought the shares of Brinko in 1974, we paid good money. We've been paying interest on all of that debt ever since. No one ever talks about that it is part of the big, huge deficit and debts that we have built up over that time. Very little return on that. And now that we are coming close to the end of the contract, we are squandering the leverage that we've built up over all that time. It's an absolutely criminal state. It really is. It's a criminal state of affairs.
Simply because of the time, and I'm well overdue, but I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for doing it.
Patty, it's always nice to talk to you.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to one of the candidates running for Deputy Mayor in the City of St. John's. That's Bianca Lono. Bianca, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, Patty, I've been meeting with a lot of different organizations, and yesterday I even met with the Firefighters Association, and I just wanted to kind of talk about the elephant in the room, because I think it's really the crux and the center point of all the different things that many of our candidates are talking about and what we want to make changes in the city, and that's money. And so everything comes down to money, and I think we had a great chat about that yesterday. And so what I would love to share with you and get your input is I have some different ideas on how we can generate some more revenue in our city, but without having to increase our taxes. Does that sound exciting?
Absolutely. So where are we going?
So you know that we, and for people who are listening, I'm not sure if they're aware, so we have what we call a MAT, so a municipal accommodation tax. And currently for St. John's, it's 4%. But as we all know, Airbnbs are not regulated across the province or in the city of St. John's. So that becomes a little bit of an issue because, it also skews our tourism numbers, but that's money that we're leaving on the table. So I had run some numbers in terms of what the data that I was able to find, because again, we don't track that information. So approximately there's a little over 1,300 listings that are active right now in the city. And as much as I love having tourists come to our city, we also know that there's a lot of comfortable ways that are purchasing homes and then turning around and renting them as Airbnbs. Well, if they're not regulated, they're not contributing to that municipal accommodation tax. And for St. John's, our accommodation tax is only 4%, which is actually below the national range of 5 to 7. So I know there's been when I first moved home, there's been a little bit of pushback in terms of whether it should be the province or the municipality to regulate those. But when you do the math, so I'm going to just give you like a highline math in terms of if we had that 6% accommodation tax for Airbnbs at the rate of $250 a night. Now I know there's one on my street that goes for over $500 a night. So I'm being very realistic here. That would mean over $7 million in revenue for our city. And when I say $7 million, that's our 3% tax increase that we just received. Pause.
Quick question. So with the Tourism Accommodations Act and the need for Airbnbs to register with the province and all the compliance issues, did that not also include abiding by municipal issues like the accommodation tax in the city of St. John's?
I know no. So, like, if they register with an Airbnb, they pay there is a tax, a fee associated to that. But in terms of having them actually registered with the city or with the province, that is not happening right now. So, if you think about it, if someone's renting out their home, and there's some situations that I know of as I've been speaking with people where they rent to students from September to May, and then they flip it over into a vacation rental from May to August. That's also taking away some of our inventory, and they're not registered. We're not receiving that. We're not getting that MAT tax on those rentals. So, and I mean, and I'm going to just put this out there because I'm a real believer in protecting our local economy and our local businesses. I would almost go as far to say is to keep the 4% MAT tax for local bed and breakfast, because those are smaller and they're legitimate businesses that are running, to put food on their tables. But then increasing that MAT tax for anything that is a lodging site that's on Airbnb or Vrbo or anything like that, and increasing it up to the 6%. Because that's a huge amount of money that we are leaving on the table that we could be utilizing to spend on, on all the different things that we need. And also, not increasing our taxes. Because really, when we increased our taxes, our taxes went up by 3%. It wasn't based on our property value. It was based on the mill rate. I mean, when my taxes go up and it's based on property value, I get excited because it means my property is worth more. But when it goes up based on mill rate, that means we're not being fiscally responsible. We're not managing that budget. And if we have a $349 million budget and we needed to gain an extra $7 million, well, that MAT tax could be one of the answers.
It could be. I'll admit to being a little bit confused here because the amendments to the Tourism Act were done. And it meant that any short-term rental, and there's a few caveats here, overnight lodging period, 30 days of less, had to abide by all the provincial and municipal laws and federal laws when they had to be registered with the province. So, and that was everything. Airbnb, bed and breakfast, resorts, hostels, dorm rooms, all of these types of things. So if it goes on to say that all municipal, provincial, federal laws applicable to the business will be observed, I'm surprised that doesn't include the accommodation tax. I'll confirm one way or the other because that was my understanding, and I could be absolutely wrong, but now I've got to try to figure it out.
Well, and the other thing is too is how are we making sure that they're registered, right? Because I could rent a room right now on Airbnb and I'm not registered and I'm not paying that tax. So there's a lot. Would have to be a bit of a partnership in terms of hospitality. Well, Hospitality NL is a not-for-profit, but engaging all the different levels that are involved in tourism to make sure that enforcement is happening. Because you could rent a room today and then take it off tomorrow. You're not paying that municipal accommodation tax. But when you go into those long terms, they're not necessarily being registered with the city. And that's the key. That is really that's kind of the loophole that's happening right now. And then you get into all the parking situations. I mean, I think people who live downtown would probably agree that we kind of have a higher volume of short-term accommodations in this area. And it would really make a huge difference. And it's something that we really need to look at and really kind of dissect what that could be, because that could be potentially a lot of revenue for our city, not just our city, but municipalities across the province.
Yeah, the issue regarding registration is basically the opportunity to advertise your lodgings through some of the government avenues. Bianca, so I will chase this a little bit further. Someone just sent me an actual receipt for an Airbnb, $124 per night, 5 nights. Guest service fee, which is something that the owner-operator bakes in, and then occupancy taxes were charged to the tune of $106.13. I assume that is the accommodation tax, but again, I'll have to go and dig a little deeper and figure. Me too, and try to figure it out. Bianca, anything else quickly before I have to go?
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly do a shout out. Because I am running for deputy mayor, I am hosting a open campaign social at the Elks Club on Thursday. It's a drop-in from 7 to 10 at the Elks Club. I'm going to have lots of really cool, kind of more informative and interactive stations there. But I would love for people to come out and say hello, come and meet me, ask your questions. And it's open to everyone across St. John's, also any candidates. And I'll be collecting donations for Bridges to Hope as well through that event. So hopefully people can come out and make it. And that's it. So I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening, Patty. I appreciate it.
The same to you. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. That's Bianca Lono running for deputy mayor. Let's take a break. When we go back, Jeff Butt's in the queue. We've spoken to Jeff over the years about the amount of drugs on the streets and what we need to be thinking about and doing about it. Jeff's next. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Jeff. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Just calling in. Not too bad. Half decent some days not, like anybody. But I figured I'd call in to let everybody know of the upcoming provincial-wide rally we're having on Thursday coming. We've been organising a rally for quite some time to gather everybody together to address the drug crisis we've been facing here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Obviously, there's been a lot of questions about how things are going in regards to looking after dealing with the drug crisis. I mean, our government hasn't been proactive. A lot of politicians don't really want to touch on the subject, but I'm calling on all politicians now to talk about it and openly talk about it and attend one of the rallies in the location nearest them.
I just want to give a little bit of background for you, Jeff. Jeff and I have spoken many times in the past. At 19 years of age, his son Lucas Lethbridge died from an overdose of some illicit drugs found on the street.
Yeah, and since then I've been seeking justice for my son and involved with other people in the community that's concerned about how things is going with regards to the drug crisis. We're having the rally on Thursday coming between 12 and 2 at various municipalities all across the province. The main one will be at the Confederation Building in St. John's. I myself am organising the one for the Clareville area. Mayor John Pickett will be there attending to speak on his concerns of what we're facing. Representative from our Member of Parliament, Jonathan Rowe, is going to be there. Representative from our NHA, Lloyd Parrott, will be there. And also a lady who just recently lost her son, a 14-year-old son, in March. She will be there to publicly speak for the first time, I do believe, about her loss and how it's affected her and what she sees needs to be done with dealing with the drug crisis. I mean, essentially what we're asking the government to step up to provide drug-sniffing dogs at ports of entries, Canada Post, truck stops, schools. We're wanting on-demand detox and rehab, long-term sobriety programs, and sober living homes. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues the province has been facing over the years. You know, we got out of control drug epidemic, basically, surge of crime and theft, a lot of vandalism and overdoses and needle deaths. And, I mean, since 2016 alone in Canada, we've had over 50,000 deaths due to opiates. And that's an awful lot, you know, and it's getting worse since 2020, since my son has passed away. Here in Newfoundland alone, the overdose deaths have increased dramatically, and it's having a serious impact on every part of our society. You know, our healthcare is strained as it is right now, and dealing with the fallout of the drug crisis part of it. On top of that, well, it compounds issues with our healthcare, and so I'm calling out to all mayors of other municipalities. We've got rallies going on Thursday to at least 12 locations, but some municipalities might not have a rally, but we're calling on all the mayors of all those other municipalities to attend one of the rallies that are closest to them. We're calling on all healthcare workers and first responders because we know they're completely bogged down dealing with our healthcare crisis as it is, let alone dealing with the drug crisis part on top of that. And they're greatly affected by the drug crisis. And we're calling on all community-based organizations and groups that have been known to help the community. There's different churches we know that helps the community. There's like Lions Club. There's a lot of different community-based organizations we're calling on to stand with us during the rally to demand that our government act immediately, not just this crap about talk, and like it's been going on for years. We need actual action taken now before it gets to the point of no return. And right now, it's a tipping point. This is going to be the first time ever a province-wide rally will be organized, and is a historical moment in regards to that. But we need people to show up, give their support, talk about the issues that need to be addressed, and demand that those issues be addressed by our government and action taken on it.
Fair enough, Jeff. Just a couple of points. So the mother of the 14-year-old, I believe the fellow who sold that kid the drugs has been charged, right?
Yes, yeah, been charged with manslaughter. The first known case that I know of in Newfoundland, it will set an important precedence with regards to going forward and having drug dealers held accountable. The RNC, I do believe, was pursued the charges. They filed the charges. I myself been pushing for to have manslaughter charges brought against the people that was responsible for my son's death, and the RCMP have yet to catch up to other police forces across the province yet. The OPP in Ontario charged numerous people with manslaughter over the years, but our RCMP is yet to catch up to that, and is very important that they revise the way they look after those investigations and start bringing charges forward. Thank God for the RNC, and I commend them for taking the step to pursue charges against that person responsible for this young 14-year-old boy's death.
I'm going to find a list of all the locations. I'll speak to it live here on the radio. And one last reminder, because I do have to get to the news, is if you are a bystander and someone is overdosing in front of you, please call for help. There's a Good Samaritan law that says you will not be charged. So please make that call. That's got to be, driven home as an important message. Jeff, I'll find the locations. I'll talk about it on the show, and I appreciate your time. Hope you're doing okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Take care, Jeff. All right,
you
bye-bye.
Too. Bye.
Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line 1. Karen, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. Good. I've just got a bit of a buyer beware story I just wanted to share with your listeners. We had purchased tickets. Well, my husband wanted to purchase tickets for a show at Mary Brown Center in October. So Saturday night he went on to the Mary Brown's website he wanted to buy VIP tickets, and he was redirected. He didn't realize, but he was redirected to another site, which wasn't Mary Brown's. It looked like the same site. It had the same seating chart and so on, same options. So he bought the 2 VIP tickets, which were $600 each. And the next day, I looked at his credit card statement, and there was a charge there for $2,584. So I went back through his transaction and through the document that they sent. And it was not the Mall 1 Center, Mary Brown Center. It was a site called Event Tickets Center, which is a resale ticket company, much the same as StubHub or Ticketmaster, those types of things. And it was also in U.S. dollars, which was in the very, very fine print. And they charged a service fee that was undisclosed. So the description of the package is not VIP. It says it's VIP, but it's lower bowl section, and it's going to be somewhere in 119 to or 111 to 119 lower bowl section, which I think is on the side or towards the back, as opposed to the third row.
It's directly adjacent to the stage itself. You're right on the side of the stage in 11 and 19.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's where it is. Absolutely. And they're actually discounted tickets, or they're supposed to be.
Well, when I went to the Mary Brown site myself and looked at the actual seats, they ranged your standard seats ranged from like 60, 65 to like 150. And I was like, okay, something's wrong here. So not only that, they don't send the digital tickets right away. I would suspect because they don't have them yet. They were going to get the tickets 2 days before the show in the mail. No digital tickets. So anyway, I was researching for like hours and hours yesterday, and it's all you got to do is type in Event Ticket Center, and people have been scammed left, right, and center. There's been court cases, people not receiving tickets or receiving tickets in someone else's name or not seated together. So $2,500. We don't know. We'll probably be sitting in the back or on the side, like you said, not together. And yeah, it's
if there are even tickets to begin with.
Well, yeah, exactly. Some people say they received I was reading some stuff on Reddit yesterday, and some people received tickets, and when they went to their show, they couldn't be scanned because they weren't tickets, real tickets.
Yep. Lots of that on the go. So, just for fair warning for folks, if you go to buy a ticket through the Mary Brown Centre website, if you get directed to anything but mbcenter.evenue.net, you're on a scam site. So there's only one legitimate link at Mary Brown's to buy tickets, just one. And so if it doesn't say mbcenter.evenue.net, because I've bought tickets through it myself, then you are potentially getting scammed. Not only be separated from your hard-earned money, but it might not even be a real ticket. So be extremely cautious here. So is this for the Bryan Adams concert?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, it's really unfortunate, but I didn't know that this was happening to this extent on the Mary Brown site. So I'm going to have a couple of clicks at it during this upcoming break to see if I get directed to anything but the legitimate buying site. And if so, we'll see if we can't get the folks from St. John's Sports and Entertainment to come on, because we have a scheduled conversation with Brent Mead coming up about a variety of things, and this will be one.
Okay.
I'm really sorry this happened to you, Karen.
Thanks. Oh, on the flip side, I did contact the company yesterday, and I kind of just kept going back and forth about how they misrepresented themselves and what they provided, and they did refund back $300 US, so about 400 Canadian for the undisclosed service fee.
Yeah.
So that's something, I guess.
There's been a lot of ticket companies that have been taken to task, legally speaking, for not putting all their cards on the table before we go ahead and give them our credit card information. So after the fact service fees, you'll be told, okay, your total round numbers, $400. Then you go to pay with your credit card, and then your end receipt says $475. There's all of a sudden a $75 service fee that I wasn't told about, which of course is not only unethical, it's against the law. So, yeah. Brutal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it happened, Karen, but thanks for giving the listeners a heads up.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having a chat.
Happy to take your call. Good luck. Are you going to go through your credit card company, see if there's some way to reconcile the losses with them?
Yeah, I called them last night. They said it can be disputed as fraud only if we don't receive the tickets. So if we don't receive the tickets, then we might get somewhere. So my husband's like, so will I go online and buy the real VIP tickets? I was like, no, you won't. We're not going. If they don't come, we're not going.
That was a pretty courageous question.
Yeah, he's pretty embarrassed anyway. But anyway.
It can happen to the best of us.
Yeah. All right, well, have a good day.
You too, Karen. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, I'll have a couple of clicks now during the break, but there is only one ticket buying page on the Mary Brown Centre webpage that you can trust. And it is mbcenter.evenue.net. And if it says anything other than that, go back out and try again. And we will see if we can get Brent Mead to come on and talk about how that might be happening through their website. All right, let's see here. Let's take a break. We'll make it back. Tons of time left for you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 2. Melissa, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty. How are you today?
I'm okay today, thank you. How about you?
I'm holding in. The reason why I'm calling. Oh, sorry. The reason why I'm calling is I've been living in the tent on and off now for almost over 3 years. In and out of shelters. No longer being able to stay there. Back into a tent to the point that I do have a walker right now. I've been trying to talk to the shelter line, but they keep saying they have nothing that's walker accessible. It is getting colder out, and it's at the point that I have been calling the shelter line every other day, like 4 and 5 times a day, and they keep saying, we have nothing walker accessible for you. Pretty much, and the last time I talked to them yesterday, they're like, do you have a tent? Can you go in a tent? Now, with a tent, the government here in St. John's have a rule that you can't be putting tents up. They get the cops and everybody involved and makes you take it down. So along with me being disabled and having a walker, I have to take where I put my tent to down in the downtown area, I have to take that down daily. So I have to put it up and then I have to take it back down. It is getting way too hard on me, and I don't know what else to do but to go up by Newfoundland and Labrador housing and camp up there to see if they can help. But it seems like they're not helping.
So when you contact housing to put your name on a wait list, they simply say they don't have anything for you.
There's no waiting list. You just got to call daily, Patty.
Yeah.
So I usually call 3 and 4 and 5 times a day, and they just keep saying there's nothing available. We have nothing. We have nothing. And that's been going on for over a week now.
The wait list is extremely long, too. Last time I heard, there was somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple of thousand names on that wait list. So that's pretty frustrating stuff. How long have you...
No, I'm talking about Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm talking about the emergency shelter line.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was talking about housing.
No, it's called, I think that's the same thing, but I'm talking about the emergency shelter line.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. That's my misunderstanding. My apologies. How long have you been in the tent now, Melissa?
I stayed in there last night. I was at the gathering place, but due to stuff I was told I had to go. I'm not going to get into that or mention names, but due to some issues, I had to leave. So last night was the first night into a tent, but about a week ago, I spent almost 2 weeks ago, I spent almost 8 days in the tent.
Where were you living prior to this?
Prior to this, I was living just pretty much couch surfing. I couch surf or live in a tent. Prior to this, I did have my home place.
What happened with your own place, if you don't mind me asking? You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No, that's good. I gave it up for a man that I thought I was in love with to move in with him, and he asked me to give up my place, and I did, and everything went sour. After I gave up my place, everything just went downhill.
I'm sorry to hear that. So when you call the emergency shelter line, they simply say there isn't a space for you. Is that what you told me?
Yes, that's what they keep saying. There's no space. There's no space. And last night when I called again, they're like, there's no space. Do you have a blanket? Do you have a tent? Yes, I do have a blanket, but it's a tin blanket. It's not that heavy. Last night I got really cold in the tent. Like, I have a walker. I got to take down my tent daily. Like, I have to be up and take my tent down daily, because if not, they're going to throw it. If the town gets it, they will throw it out. That's what they've been doing. So I have to literally take this tent down daily.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to that part of the conversation as well. So ultimately, I wish I could put a roof over your head, but do you need something warmer sleeping bag, warmer blanket, while we try to figure out some more stable housing for you?
Yes, I need a warmer sleeping bag. I need food. I'm diabetic. I'm epileptic. I got no food, no water, nothing to even drink, and I literally have no sleeping bag, only a blanket, and it's going to rain tonight. I have no top for my tent, so my tent's probably going to get soaked and wet. I just don't know what else to do, Patty.
Can we reach you at this number, Melissa, that I see on my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay. At the very least, I'm going to try to get you something to keep you warm. So I'll start with that. There's not much I can do in the world of shelter, emergency shelter or otherwise, but I'm at least going to start there to see if we can't help, for the short term, to see if we can help you find out something a bit more permanent. So leave this with me. We'll get back to you as soon as I have some information, okay?
Okay, thank you so much, Patty.
You're welcome. Stay in touch. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I can make the calls, or if you're listening and that you know that you've got something that we can get to Melissa just for some short-term relief, please do. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to line number 6. Alvin, you're on the air.
Morning, Patty. How are you?
Doing okay. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. She's going lickety-split there this morning. No stop at all.
Nope.
On your show.
Never is. What's on your mind, Alvin?
Yeah, 2 things, Patty. Number one, I'm one of those, send the letters around about the MOU. We also sent a letter to yourself,
I replied.
the Concerned Citizens Group, basically saying, suggesting, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, that maybe you could have a debate on your open line show with, pro and anti-MOU people, just to air it a bit more in the public forum,
I responded to the email.
Pardon me?
I replied to your email this morning.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I haven't checked my computer. I've been on hold, obviously, because you've been extremely busy here this morning. That's number one, and I don't know if that's possible or whatever. But anyway, that's one issue. The other issue was yesterday. The Prime Minister was in town, and Premier Hogan was with a news conference down on the waterfront, and he mentioned that the MOU, the electricity developments up in Labrador would right past wrongs on the Upper Churchill. I think that was the exact phrase that the Premier used, right past wrongs. And the problem that I had with that statement when I heard it, and the whole country heard it, obviously, too, because it was a national news conference, is that the critics of the current MOU say that the wrong on the Upper Churchill was that we got no money, and the critics on this new agreement says that the bottom line on it all is that we don't get any money from this one either. So writing past wrongs is, a bit of an exaggeration, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of exaggerations on the go out there. Some of that is based in not a fully detailed description of all the moving parts, financially speaking. So when that's the case, then there's going to be exaggerations on the negatives and the positives. That's just how it works.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Well, this is, as my former colleague in the Premier's office, Des Sullivan, pointed out this morning when he was on with you, this is not so much a business case for hydro development as it is a political case. As you indicated yourself, the Premier of Quebec is up for re-election and looks like he could be in trouble. And obviously our Premier down here has got to call an election in the next few days. And I'm just concerned that in all the election hype, we forget what happened before. On the Upper Churchill, we got jobs and all that kind of stuff. Companies got contracts, but when it was all up and running, we got no money. And now we appear to be headed for the same thing. And my position, personally, is that no shovel goes in the ground until we get a better deal. Because if you remember Muskrat, first the shovels went in the ground, then came years of silence, and then the hole that we dug with those shovels caved in on us. So putting the shovels in the ground first is putting the horse before the cart before the horse. So I do think that people should stop and think. That's the main thing with regard to the Churchill River proposal, is think. Think about what we went through before. Think about what we went through on Muskrat. And therefore, at a minimum, this proposal should be vetted through an independent panel, arm's length from government.
Fair enough. And what that looks like, what the terms of reference would be, really hard to say, because I hear a dozen different opinions on that exact topic. But I did reply to your email, and I guess I'll just summarize it here while I'm speaking with you this morning, Alvin.
Yeah.
I'm happy to try to organize a panel discussion or debate, however people want to couch it. It's proving to be very difficult. To try to match up people's schedules is proving to be a pretty tall task. I mean, because we are talking about some pretty busy people. But, Yeah, I mean, between the Dave Vardys and the Bill Wells and the Des Sullivans and yourself and others, I mean, the opposing view has certainly gotten plenty of airtime on this program. It's too important to not. So, we're happy to chase it as best possible because, as we're told, and the Premier himself said, this is an election about a lot of things, but of course also about this Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding. So we'll keep chasing it. We'll keep talking about it. I appreciate you sending along the information and your time this morning. Anything else you want to say, Alvin?
No, I'm going to just say, anytime you're doing anything where your future is at stake, double check your sums. Check your sums.
Absolutely, double check your sums. Thank you, Alvin. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Paddy. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a development out in Paradise and whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Where am I going here, David, to begin this segment? I just to pick my own line number 4. Good morning, Lisa Marie Fifield. You're on the air.
Oh, good morning, Paddy. How are you?
Not doing too bad. I'm going to have to put you on hold, Dave. Can we clean up that phone line? Let's see here. Let's go to line number, what's that, a 5, Dave? 5. Caller, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Paddy. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. How about you?
Doing okay. First-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Just calling, I guess, to pick your brain a little bit and get some information, if you have any, and some direction regarding wetlands and the development on wetlands.
Okay, where?
So just to give you a bit of a background, it's in the country. I'm not going to identify where, but it's in the country, cabin country and stuff. And there's a wetland that is being filled in. I guess you're talking like almost 90 loads of fill. It's not, anything chemicals or anything else. It is fill. There is a wetland that feeds into a pond. And the community members have been noticing this, and there were Facebook's posts back in, I believe, May and stuff. And the storyline that came out of that, the gentleman who had made some comments, and of course, community members get talking and stuff. Apparently, we don't know if there's any permits or anything else for that activity to be happening. But the plan for the developer is to actually build what he's filled in on the wetland.
Okay, a couple of things. So if it has been designated a wetland, because there's a difference between what people think might be a wetland, what's actually been given a wetland designation. If it is and has any impact on infilling or drainage and could cause flooding in the area because of backfilling, you're simply not allowed to do it. So you're not allowed to develop on wetland. That's just the way it is when we talk about provincial lands. So any removal of vegetation, any backfill, any infilling, any drainage, any dredging, all that stuff is not allowed on a wetland under provincial jurisdiction. This is all covered in the Water Resource Act. So if you Google that up, Government of Newfoundland Labrador Water Resources Act, or just simply wetland protections, whatever phrase you want to pop in, it'll bring it to the objectives and the legislation on the government's website. But that much I know.
Okay. A couple of people have made calls, like there was an initial call made back in May, excuse me, and it was recently the past week. We haven't been able to get a hold of anyone provincially, and then a call was made federally. Now, apparently, federally, they weren't aware of the situation, so they contacted the provincial, I guess, division. So no information has been given out or understanding from the community, but it continues to be filled in, even though it's apparently being investigated.
Okay, so the information I just gave you, the things I said, I know to be true. The issue regarding wetland developments and all the policies and procedures, that's all managed by not only the Water Resources Act, but that department responsible is the Department of Environment and Climate Change. So those are the areas you have to go.
Yes, and so a member was literally talking to a gentleman today and asked for information regarding who they could contact. And we could not get any information whatsoever. They would not identify anyone specifically that we could contact and say, is this a protected wetland? How can we at least, do some groundwork? Because we as a community have to do it, because some stuff has been, already identified in May, nothing's happening, and it continues to be, filled in. And the concern is also, if you build on it, then you're going to put a sewage on it. And that wetland feeds into the pond, blah, blah, blah.
There's a land use list, but it's very unhelpful when we're talking about identifying the difference between a bog and a marsh and a swamp and a wetland and all those things. So, but the minister responsible is Scott Reid, and I actually know an email off the top of my head. It's ECC info at gov.nl.ca. But I'd do exactly that. Google up wetland protection Newfoundland and Labrador. You'll come to that site, Water Resources Act, the Minister Scott Reid, and developing on a designated wetland is not permitted anyway.
Okay, all right. I appreciate your time, Paddy, and take care and keep being you.
I appreciate your time. Keep me in the loop. Let me know what happens.
I shall indeed, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, let's keep rolling. We'll keep talking development. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to Kevin Martin. Good morning, Kevin. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you, sir?
Great today. How about you?
Wonderful, sir. Paddy, I've never felt the need to call into your show, but obviously I do feel the need. I'm here on the line. Paddy, I wanted to talk about and address a situation ongoing on the back of my street in Paradise. I live on Irving Drive, and on the back of my street, I've lived there for 20 years. Some of my neighbors have lived there for 40 plus years. There was a tree line, a strip of trees about 125 to 150 feet deep, stretching the full length of the street. We noticed a few months ago, and we were notified that they would be putting infrastructure in the street for water and sewer. There were 3 houses on Drovers Road, so they got from what I understand, they got a provincial grant to put the infrastructure in the street, which we were aware of. As soon as the infrastructure was in the street, there was heavy equipment up there gutting the neighborhood, which I'm shocked that the town would allow such a thing to happen. The excavation equipment has been up there. There's basically around 90% of the trees and shrubbery completely gone. They've got it scraped right down to the bedrock, and I'm just appalled that this would actually happen in 2025.
And so, obviously, before coming to me, you went to the town of Paradise proper and heard what?
I went to I talked to Paul Dinn yesterday, fantastic guy, had a great chat with him, and he said, Kevin, he said, yes, he said, there should be checks and balances in place, there should be consultation with your neighbors before anything like this takes place. He said, absent that it didn't happen, he said, it makes no sense to me, maybe the town's policies were changed or something. We also spoke about a green space, because I've been with RE/MAX 29 years, and we've done subdivision development, and the town always required a 10 or 15% green space area. And then over on another neighborhood, over on Fred Brown, they've left a buffer zone behind the homes, but they've just came in there and they've gutted the place. I was told there was supposed to be consultation, no consultation, and I'm shocked that, a community is supposed to be a community feel. So what are we doing? What are we doing as a community? Pushing nature to the outskirts of our community. We're gutting it. There was bunny rabbits running around our street year round. It was a quiet neighborhood, and like I said, I'm appalled. I've sent an email off to the mayor. I've sent an email off to all the town councillors. I've sent an email off to the MP, Tom Osmond. I haven't heard nothing back from anybody at the town. And I thought, like I've told the people in the email, you guys are elected by the citizens of the town to represent the town, and by God, certainly listen to the residents when they have an issue, and certainly consult with the residents.
Yeah, of course. And it just, in the concept of pushing wildlife back, pushing and removing vegetation and changing the water paths, there's a big price to pay if something goes wrong there. I mean, I know we're not...
Where do we end?
Yeah,
where do we end?
It's a fair question.
Where do we end?
I know this is not Animal Planet here on Open Line, but, I mean, we have lost hundreds, if not thousands, of species in the last 5 decades. And why? Because of us. Because of what we do, how we behave.
Patty, I guess I'm seeing it firsthand now. I've been involved in subdivision development in my career with Remax, but I've never experienced this firsthand, and this is absolutely shocking. What are we going to do in Paradise? What are we going to strip every tree, gut every neighborhood so that there's just houses? Is that what we're going to do as a neighborhood and a community in Paradise?
Yeah. I mean, I understand when people say, look, we're slowing things down and all the additional costs, or we're putting the thumbs down to subdevelopers because we're going to protect, the red squirrel. The fact of the matter is, it's a bit of an obtuse way to look at biodiversity and the actual balance in the ecosystem that is important to all of us. Whether or not you embrace or like birds or squirrels or rabbits or foxes or wolves, doesn't matter. The way that we have behaved has put a shock into the ecosystem, which is not good for individual human beings. But,
Eddie, I'm out there watching the squirrels and the little bunny rabbits run yesterday as the guy is in the backhoe with the big arm coming in and beating the trees down. Right, I'm just watching the wildlife run, and I'm sitting at the boundary of my land on Saturday, and if I didn't move out of the way, the tree that he knocked down would have hit me in the head. It's like, really?
Yeah,
I'm appalled. I can't believe this is happening. And, we all talk about it. We listen to it on the news daily. We listen to it on social media. Talking about conservation, green space, wetlands, whatnot. And this is what we're doing in a modern community of Paradise. We're taking every tree, every shrub, everywhere we can put in a building lot and a house. We're going to squeeze it in there. Is that what we're about as a community?
It's one thing to be optimistic and encouraged by growth, but growth comes with problems. And we sometimes ignore that very important facet of population growth, the growth of municipalities like Paradise or CBS or St. John's or Torbay or Bay Bulls or whatever. We get all jazzed up when there's application for a home permit to be built, but maybe not enough careful consideration of what that actually means.
I'm air shocked. My neighborhood is gutted. I talked to an older gentleman on the top of the street there. He's lived there 40, 42 or 45 years or something. He said, Kevin, I can't believe this. He said, our neighborhood is he said, all our trees are gone. The trees, the two or three trees that they left there blew down the weekend on his patio. They went 3 feet from his patio, Patty. 3 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Kevin, I appreciate the heads up. I will follow up with the town, even though it kind of feels and sounds like it's too late, but even just some justification would be interesting to hear.
100%. Absolutely. Listen, Patty, thank you very much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye. Look, we know there's need to build, which is why I think there's more conversations about building up instead of out. Protects a lot of different things. Green spaces and vegetation. And, people can go on about flora and fauna. Look, it's important. Building up versus out is also a key feature. If you're worried about your taxes, what have you, building out costs more. Building out means to extend services, whether it be roads, which need to be maintained, they need to be plowed, they need to be salted, whether it be for water and sewer. Whatever the case may be, building out comes with an enormous expense, financially and otherwise. Let's take a break, see if we come back with a clean phone line to say good morning to Lisa Marie Fifield, the United Way, 211. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Lisa Marie Fifield. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you doing?
Great today. Thank you. How about you?
Good, thanks. I just wanted to give a call to just kind of give your viewers a bit of an overview of further to an announcement that the province had made last Friday, September the 5th. Of course, the province announced their new child and youth health model, providing easier and more efficient access to health services. And a big component of that initiative is the connection between that program and 211. And I just kind of wanted to make sure that people had a bit of clarity around what 211 actually was.
Sure.
Because I think it's a great service, and it's actually an ongoing existing service. So 211 is actually a 3-digit number people can call when you don't know where to go for support. There's a lot of great resources out there, and sometimes finding those resources can be a bit challenging. So 211 is an opportunity for people to go, okay, I need X, Y, or Z. I'm going to give 211 a call, and they can direct me to services and programs in my area that can provide assistance. So this particular thing that's going to be happening with the province is going to be a great opportunity, and I know something that I personally could have availed of, a number of years ago when I was coming up through with smaller children. So, but yeah, 211 is 24/7, 365 days a year, and it's free confidential. So even though we are working with the province for this particular child and youth initiative, it's an existing service that people can actually call now if there's something that they feel they need to be connected with. The other great thing about 211 is that it's offered in over 150 different languages. So it really breaks down barriers for people. And it's just an awesome way for people to stay connected. So, yeah, I'm not sure if there was much, knowledge about exactly what 211 does and who we are and what we're doing here in the province.
I know a bit about it. We had one of your representatives, I believe, maybe the manager on a few weeks ago, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's a pretty comprehensive suite of offerings at 211, I can say that. But insofar as the announcement went last week regarding youth and health services and what have you, what exactly does that mean for 211? I was a little bit confused, to be honest with you, on that front.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted to give a call in this morning, because, of course, as you know, they announced there was 2 phases to it. So 211 is directly connected to the first phase. So basically it's going to be, if you have a child and your child has, needs, but you're not sure where to go, the connection there is that 211 will be able to talk through with the parent, the caregiver, teacher, whatever, to be able to determine what the best source of support for your child or young person is. Because the navigators at 211 are, they're trained to listen. So you may call in with, thinking you have problem A, and while, we can help you solve problem A, we might also recognize that there's an underlying issue that can be addressed as well. So it's really about, stopping people from having to go in a continuous loop of making phone call after phone call after phone call, whereas you can call 211, they can go, it sounds like this, we're going to connect you here. So it's going to provide an opportunity, I think, for parents to be able to get some clarity around where to get resources for their children.
Yeah, because it is, this is a bit of a silly thing. It's a one-stop shop. I was just really curious if there was anything changing or advancing at 211 to dovetail with that particular announcement. Because I know prior to this announcement that you could always call 211 to get, pointed in the right direction or to get some guidance or put in connection with some supports. So I was just wondering if anything specific changed with that announcement. But it doesn't sound like it. It just was highlighting the fact that you can go to 211.
You can, yeah. Now, we are actually working directly with the province to kind of, I'll say, nail down some of those specific organizations, because we need to make sure that all of these resources for children and youth are actually included in the 211 database. So we're going to be making sure that, those necessary connections are already in place so that the navigators can direct accordingly. So there is going to be, some behind-the-scenes work happening to make sure that the database is up-to-date / accurate / full with those particular resources that the province may be kind of wanting to direct people to more so. And that's all going to be part and parcel coming down the line. But yeah, in the meantime, it's a great service that can benefit so many people and just really takes a lot of guesswork out of, trying to find the right supports. As I said, all of us have probably needed some sort of help along the way, and just trying to find the right place to go can be quite challenging. So this just makes it so much easier, and you say one-stop shop, right? And that's exactly what it is. But it's so much more. It has the potential to really make such a tangible difference to people every day.
Yeah, you're going to put me out of a job. Don't do me any favors. Lisa Marie, appreciate the time. Stay in touch.
Thank you very much, Patty. You have a great day.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, let's get a break in. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 1. Stan, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty.
Hi there.
You were just talking to a lady that got scammed when she's trying to get some tickets there. And a little while ago, you were talking to another lady that was ordering something online, and she thought Oprah was involved. So she figured that was no scam, but it was a scam. And then within the last month, Dr. Tam, we all know who Dr. Tam was when COVID was on the go. And I've seen something on my computer there saying about the problems, like I have a problem with my knee, and oh, you don't need surgery. This medication, save you from getting surgery and all that. And I said to the wife, it can't be a scam. She wouldn't be involved in a scam. She tried to order something with her MasterCard, and that was canceled. They wouldn't take it. And then I said, use my Visa. And that went through, and no sooner got a call from my bank saying it was fraud. It called saying your tickets your cards are being used and it's a scam. Cancel your cards right away, which I've done. So what do you believe these days? You look at something that lady said, Oprah, she thought she's getting involved with the product there. Here's this Dr. Tam, looked like to me. She said it was Dr. Tam. And I figured it can't be a scam. So I had to cancel my 2 credit cards and order new ones. Took a while to get them and straighten away and all that. Then I contacted the company that I was dealing with, use my cards. It's nothing but, I don't know what to be doing these days. You can't trust nothing or nobody.
Sure feels like that.
Just AI, Patty, I haven't got a clue what it is. But are we looking at, like Dr. Tam? It's not Dr. Tam. Are they using her picture and she's talking there and a scam going on together? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I mean, people.
I don't know anything about AI.
People will utilize any tool in the toolbox to scam outside of our hard-earned money. For me, the rule of thumb for me is pretty clear. Unless I initiate contact, I don't respond to anybody. I don't respond to anything. I don't buy anything that I didn't go looking for in the first place. So that's just how I choose to handle it, because I'm with you. It's hard to know what's real and what's fake. And the scammers are able to present very realistic-looking emails and offerings and websites. So, like, if it's an email from the bank or it's an email promoting one product or another, unless I go and search it out myself to find a verifiable website or whatever the case may be, I just don't reply to anything. I just leave it alone.
No, there's only one place I order anything online. It's a shopping channel. Never has a problem with my cards. But this here, I figured it was on the up and up. Dr. Tam's pictures there. She's talking and everything like that. I figured it can't be a scam. But sure enough, it was. So you can't believe what you see anymore on either the computer or the TV.
It's becoming more and more difficult. And I guarantee you, into the future, with things like artificial intelligence and that technology growing the way it is, it's going to get even worse. Like, I mean, even when we talk about banking, banks are trying to be helpful and make things easier for their clients or customers. Like, I can take a picture of a check if someone gives me a check, which is, doesn't happen very often. Someone gives me a check, I can take a picture of it, send it to my bank account, and have it deposited without actually going to the branch. I can also acknowledge or approve funds to be transferred from my account by a voicemail. But artificial intelligence can mimic my voicemail, and consequently, banks should stop doing these things. I mean, they all need more protections.
It makes it seem so convenient, but it's tricky stuff, eh?
Absolutely right. Yep.
No, I just when I heard that lady talking about ordering them tickets for the Mary Brown Centre, and I said, geez, I was scammed a while ago. But I said to the fraud company from the bank, I said, department, I said, I won't be charged nothing. They said no. So far I haven't seen nothing I've been charged for. But you can't trust anything or anybody you see there now. And I don't know. I listen to your calls every day coming into you, and same thing. Every now and then you get the same thing I'm saying here now. People are getting scammed out of their money. But I wasn't scammed out of nothing. But I won't try that no more.
Yeah, and we see the numbers reported, and there's tens of millions of dollars every year. But we also know at the exact same time is only a minimal percentage of people who got scammed actually report it. Why? Because they're embarrassed. So, I mean, I'm going to guess there's hundreds of millions of dollars a year taken by these scam artists, both over the phone and online, and we've just got to do everything possible to just not fall for it. If it looks too good to be true, if it even looks like it's too convenient, it's probably a scam.
I was just going to say to you, everything she was saying about, people having problems with their knees, and she described everything that I'm going on my knee there now. I'm well past 10, and I'm not thinking about surgery unless I really got to. And so I said, what she's saying there now with this, the problems I have with my knee, and she's talking about this medication that probably would save me from getting surgery. I said, it must be on the up and up, but I still try it. So you never know, do you?
No, and
you never know what to do.
Proceed
anyway,
with
I just
caution.
want to get a few words and just mention that to you, Eddie. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate your time, Stan. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 2. Say good morning to Heather Paul, the chair of FASDNL. Good morning, Heather. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Patty. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. How about you?
Great.
So
I just want...
are we
go
talking
ahead.
about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder? Is that what a FASD is?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are. And September is FASD Awareness Month, and September 9th, today, is a particular day that we put a lot of effort into the awareness. And I just wanted to draw your listeners to a form. It's a form of neurodiversity in the same category as autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, learning disabilities. Okay. And we have a website, FASDNL, that provides a lot of services and strategies and tips for anybody who's interested in learning more about FASD. We have training that is free or pay as you go. If you'd like to make a donation. However, it is free, and we have a lot of categories there for health, justice, education, parent groups, parent support groups. One of the things we're particularly proud of in the past year and a half, 2 years, is that we've developed a diagnostic network across the province. And it's very difficult to get diagnosis of FASD because of wait lists. There is a diagnostic clinic with the Janeway, as well as 2 clinics in Labrador. However, the wait lists are fairly lengthy. So with the support of the Department of Education, as well as the provincial government and other partners, we were able to develop a diagnostic network, and that folks, if they're wishing to get their child assessed for possible FASD, they just need to contact us, and we will arrange the assessments, and at minimal or no cost.
That's the good news. So I don't know a whole lot about FASD. Mm-hmm. I do know it's a lifelong disability, number one. Yes. But you mentioned, I think you said autism. If not, maybe I just was thinking, my mind is just racing. It's similar in that it depends on the severity of. So you can be on different parts of the spectrum, just like in autism. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all. It's not just every person with FASD is impacted the same.
Absolutely. And of course, FASD is the result of exposure to alcohol during pregnancy, and that's for a variety of reasons. Not necessarily. I mean, I haven't met anybody yet who decides one day that they're pregnant and they're going to use alcohol. However, the exposure during pregnancy depends on the impact then in the lifelong span, and everybody is different. Everybody is different, so that's why it's good to get an accurate diagnosis. And so therefore then you can provide supports and interventions that are customized to the needs of the individual.
You will hear and see stories of a woman becomes pregnant, and whether it be alcohol or tobacco or what have you, and then they quit. How do we manage the message about how many unplanned pregnancies where the mother may indeed be smoking and or drinking, but then they find out and like, oh my God, I'm already 2.5 months along or whatever the case may be, but I have been drinking, I have been smoking. How do we craft that message to those unplanned pregnancies?
And that's very much where we're into our awareness, and that if a person is basically of an age in which they can become pregnant, then it becomes about responsible alcohol or other drug use. And it comes down to the education in terms of managing pregnancies and managing in birth control in a sort of way, and to make sure that people are aware. So therefore, if you're aware, then that may become in your mindset about how you choose to use and when you use.
Fair enough. Maybe this is fairly technical and medical, but what does diagnosis look like? Well, what's the approach there?
Mm-hmm. Well, the approach is basically multidisciplinary team. So on a diagnostic team, you have a psychologist, of which actually I am, and I'm on the team for the diagnosis network as well as other teams in the province. We have an occupational therapist, we have a speech pathologist, we have a physician, and we also have partnerships with the schools, for example. So that's the team. And a person who is getting diagnosed with FASD or is going under an evaluation, they would be seen by all of these professionals if needed. A lot of times, particularly in children, they're already seen by some of these professionals, so it just makes it easier to gather the information together. And then in consultation, of course, we interview the parents, and together we put all the information together and then come up with a diagnosis, which goes by the Canadian Medical Association's guidelines.
So then what happens? Because, like, for instance, I get diagnosed on the autism spectrum. It might be things like early intervention for speech therapy or whatever the case may be. What sort of programs or services or treatment is available for someone who has FASD?
So, again, with FASDNL, and I encourage listeners to go to our website, and we're also on Facebook at FASDNL, we have a series of interventions that are available. We have a series of training programs. We also work with other partners, for example, the provincial government and the Department of Health and the Department of Justice, to provide services and to facilitate connections with services to folks, because everybody's individual. We work very well with the schools, actually, in providing proper academic interventions, behavioral interventions if needed. For adults, that's something that's new on our range, and again, connecting them to different community supports. So you just don't get an assessment and say, okay, there you go, all the best. So there is a follow-up.
Well, and that's the good news once again. Heather, anything else you'd like to add this morning while we have you?
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that folks become not only aware of FASD, but also about being into training. And even if you don't have FASD within your family or you don't know anybody who may have FASD, it would be a good idea to go to our website and just get some more information and training on FASD, because a lot of folks who have FASD they may not know they have FASD, or even with employers who are employing folks with FASD. So there's all kinds of information there.
Really appreciate your time, Heather. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Heather Paul, the chair of the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder NL chapter. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Is that a 2, Dave? All right, let's go to line number 2. Vic, you're on the air.
Oh, good morning, Patty.
Good morning to you.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Yes, I was listening to your preamble this morning there. I wish to congratulate our new president of Memorial University. I think you mentioned her name is Janet Morrison, Dr. Janet Morrison.
That's right.
Yes, no, I think I heard yesterday too on the news that the Faculty of Education at MUN has now instituted or implemented a new educational program whereby people doing education can do it online and obtain, I think, a teacher's degree online, which I think this is wonderful, long overdue. And I think you mentioned universities, I know they're strapped for money now, but I think one of the things that they should be doing is putting more courses online, because I think most universities now in Canada, I understand, you can do a university degree online. So I think that's really one of the things could probably help our Memorial University bringing in more income, I understand. Because as you indicated, we need more money now. And I think online now, one of the things would also, would motivate probably other students from other parts of the province too, And of course, international students, of course, that's another story. I think we'll still have international students. And the only thing is, in terms of monies, tuition, I think we have to probably look at some of the programs at MUN, maybe where there could be some duplication.
You can long distance learn through Memorial University in all their campuses.
Pardon me?
There is long distance learning. I think at this moment in time there's some 38 courses offered through long distance at MUN.
Now, yes, I'm aware of long-distance learning at Mon. But really, they're not, Memorial is still up to scratch, not to other universities, because now I've checked on this probably a few months ago. And I was talking to the Faculty of Education, I think 3 or 4 months ago, and one of the areas I think I talked about was there is a problem still in high school with our students when they go to university at Mon. They're still having problems with math, I think, in some of the areas at Memorial University. So I think at that time I pointed out to the person I was talking to that the Faculty of Education at Mon is the faculty or the vehicle that's teaching our teachers. When the teachers come out of Memorial University, they have been taught by Memorial University. So if we have problems in the schools, we have to look at the teachers. Obviously now, I think I mentioned online programs of that kind. I did do some research on that, and Memorial University behind and online programs. I know they have distance education. Okay.
Someone from Mon just sent me a text. There's 475 courses online.
Pardon me?
There's 475 courses online. So says this person who just sent me a note. Who's that?
That's fine, but I don't think they still have the degree program that you can complete without going to the university. You need to do a course. Actually, a lot of those people are working, so you should be able to do a course in your own community without coming to Mon online. You know, so that's one of the things I thought I'd call in about this morning. The other thing is, I think you were talking to somebody from Nova Scotia a few weeks ago. I think he was talking about the MOU, and he mentioned, he didn't think the MOU was going to be a good deal for Newfoundland. Now, I did read I think some of the letters that I think the ex-premier of Newfoundland or former premier of Newfoundland wrote about the Churchill deal. And I after reading his letter to the Telegram there a few weeks ago, I seem to think the man could be correct, as Newfoundland really is going to be responsible for the we're not going to be owners, it looks like, if we on this new contract of the MOU. The other thing is, I think you had someone recently from the committee pertaining to the MOU. I think the assessment, is it I think it was the independent assessment. We don't know. I think this gentleman, retired because or gave up the committee because I think he wasn't getting information from the people that's dealing with the contracts. I don't know for sure, but it seems to me that I don't know why. If I were going to do a contract, I wouldn't sign a 50-year contract, would you? Why not 10-year contract? You know what I mean? We're going to sign this thing for 50 years with Quebec, and we were not going to be in the right driver's seat. It doesn't look like one I can read in this gentleman's letter. And the other thing, I think you have some specialists now coming forward that certainly specialize in the hydroelectricity, I understand, and they're totally against this Churchill contract.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big concern, I think, because if they're saying this contract now is worse than the 1969 one. I'm familiar with the 69 one because I read all about that, I think, after it was signed. But certainly this one now, what those specialists are saying, is not good for Newfoundland. So the only thing I suggest, I think I suggested before, why can't we get the capital somewhere else? Do we have to go along with Quebec? Can't we raise our own capital? What are our banks for? You know?
Yeah, we don't have to borrow anything from Quebec, but the whole concept of us doing this on our own sounds like an awful, risky, expensive venture, boy, oh boy. I mean, just think about trying to just look at the expense to get 824 megawatts out of Muskrat Falls to market. Whether it be 1,100 kilometers of transmission lines through the Long Range Mountains, the Maritime Link. Imagine trying to do that for 20 or over 2,000 megawatts. Boy, oh boy.
I know what you mean. Now, of course, yes, I know that this gentleman's letter mentioned the Quebec. We still don't have, there's no corridor through Quebec to transport this electricity. Why not?
I'm not sure what that question means.
I say, well, why doesn't Quebec allow a corridor through their province to get electricity or from Churchill? I think that was an issue in 1969, and I think under the terms of comparison, Quebec should have allowed to have a corridor through their province, which they still haven't. I understand.
Well,
from what I read this gentleman's letter he wrote to the Telegram there, I think that was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
You're right. It's provincial jurisdiction, just like across the country. The provinces have the ability to negotiate or to decline things like pipelines and things like transmission lines and all that type of stuff, which is where the concept of the East-West corridor comes into play.
What I'm saying, Quebec is looking after themselves, but we're not looking after ourselves, are we? If we do have to. You say a bit risky. Maybe that's one of the problems. We don't risk. We're not risky enough. Some areas. Another thing, why don't we also industry? And there's lots of industry. I was drinking. I see a milk can the other day. Tin milk, cow's milk, produced in PEI. Are we producing tin milk here in Newfoundland?
I don't know. To be honest with you, tin milk.
We have one of the largest dairy farms in Atlantic Canada, on the west coast of Newfoundland.
Yeah, and the dairy farms simply produce the milk, and then someone else would do things like Scottsboro, Central Dairies, Carnation. They would make the product, the aftermath product.
But
Vic, I have to get to the.
But we're not
Vic,
producing anything for ourselves yet.
Okay. I do have to get to the news,
thing too now.
But we don't have time quite this morning, Vic, so we'll get to that next point next time. Let's take a break for the news.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number one. Say good morning to the PC member for Tops of Paradise. He's the Shadow Minister of Education, Children and Youth Services. That's Paul Dinn. Paul, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
And I know as a Shadow Minister of Education, I'm getting lots of different issues being raised this time of year, of course, with school starting. And another one that's become prevalent over the weekend, and of course now yesterday and today, has been around and I think you mentioned it or had a caller yesterday actually, around the supports for children with exceptionalities in the schools. And what I'm hearing from many parents is that they're disappointed and frustrated that the supports that they've had last year are not the same this year, or they're just not in place. And it's very concerning for parents. I mean, for any parent, it'd be concerning for your children going to school. You want to make sure they're set up to succeed and have all the supports in place. And, as parents, I mean, you love your kids unconditionally, and you're going to do whatever you can to ensure they succeed. But when you look at issues and things that should be in place and should have been in place and they're not, that becomes extremely frustrating for parents and the child who's at the center of this, the child who wants to go to school, who's going to school and doesn't have those supports. It doesn't set them up for success. And in many cases, trying to keep a child with exceptionalities in school when the environment's not as supportive as it should be, that becomes a big chore for parents. And it's, at this point in time with new schools here starting, it just astounds me that some of these supports are not in place or they're less than they were last year. And I know they had a rally, I'm not sure, well, it was this morning, I think, on Stephenville Primary. And a retired teacher out there actually was the past principal of the school. And his words, I looked at a quote there, and he's exactly right. He said, we're at the same battle, and battle is the word he used, same battle as last year in getting supports. And that's not good enough. We need to be prepared, and we got all summer long to be prepared. And here we are again at the 11th hour, and supports are not in place.
Yeah. I mean, so I hear these stories all the time, and, I don't have a crystal ball, but I spoke to this before we went back to school, knowing full well we'd hear the exact same stories year over year. Yeah. What becomes extremely problematic into the long term, look, it's a concern today, but what we have to factor in here is the stories we hear from families where year over year they go back to school, and on day one those supports are not in place, so consequently they're play catch up. If you have year after year after year of trying to play catch up, and you're someone who already needs additional supports, you never catch up. You just never do. No. So that's the long-term issue here. We know the short-term problem that it presents, but the long-term consequences are extremely dire.
And it's been, there's been lots of time to do this. I know there's been announcements were made earlier in the year, talking about increasing, 70 teacher units based on needs allocation, and talked about an additional 175 teaching and learning assistants. And I don't know where that is. There's been no update on that. And when you even look at the Education Accord that was presented there a week or so ago, and you look back, and I've been reading through that, taking my time to go through that. And what I did, Patty, I looked back at the older reports that have been in the works for many years. In particular, the Premier's Task Force on Educational Outcomes, which was they started back in the current government started back in 2015, and they came out with a report in 2017. And the report was, now is the time. And I took that report and took the recommendations. In fact, the first chapter is based on inclusive education. And I ask anyone to do it. And I laid that alongside the similar area in the Educational Accord. And a lot of it is very, very similar. And it's a failure to act. We have to act on these action items and make the education environment better, and especially for children with exceptionalities. And, here we are, and we got this Education Accord that's come in place, and it's another 10-year roadmap, as they said. And so here we go, another 10 years, hoping and wishing, especially parents in this case, that there'll be something better for their children next year. And as again, I go back to that retired principal who says it's the same battle as last year, and it shouldn't be. And some of these issues, some are low-hanging fruit. I mentioned like the school busing issue previously, but when you're dealing with children in school who have the right to an education, and you want them to succeed, and you want to set them up with all the skills and competencies that they need to have, well, it doesn't help when you put them behind from the starting line. And trying to get them ahead now. I heard from a parent the other day, and her child was supposed to be set up, go in the day before, and get transitioned into the school environment before the first day of school. Didn't happen. Her child still hasn't gone to school. Will not go in there now. And it's a real chore to get that young person in there. So, some of these aren't huge rocket science solutions. They're very simple. And we're failing the children if we're not doing better.
100%. And that's unfortunately the case for far too many children in school today, and have been since last week. I appreciate the time, Paul. Thanks for the call this morning.
Just one last thing, Patty, and it's not just not just the children here too. It's the teachers in the classrooms.
Oh yeah,
because they need these supports as well. So we need to look at this and make sure what we promise we follow through on.
Fair enough. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, I'll get a break just a few minutes early. When we come back, Wally Child, so I mentioned by name off the top of the program, leading a demonstration outside of Stephenville Primary about this exact topic, and then we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Where am I going here, Dave? I haven't been looking at the timelines. Line number 5, say good morning to Tom Davis, of course, Ward 4 councillor here in town. Tom, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Good morning.
Sorry about that. Just got to pull over here. I thought you were going to Wally first. Listen, I got to start referring to myself as a candidate now, of course, on October 2nd. Hopefully the residents will re-elect me. But right now, I guess I'm still the acting Ward 4 councillor for another few weeks. A couple of quick things. I know we're running out of time here. I want to announce the neighborhood plans for 3 different areas in the city, which I actually have residents in all 3. We've gone through this process recently, but now we're going through different parts of the city. The Rennies River area, which is from Prince Philip all the way down to Harvey Road, Military Road. It's a pretty big area. Includes Bannerman Park. Central, which is Empire, Freshwater down to Water Street, and then Mundy Palm, which is Freshwater down to Blackmarsh. So online has already started for public consultations through engagestjohns.ca. There's a virtual get-together September 11th and again September 25th, and in person on September 13th at the Farmers Market as well. Open house for Central and Mundy Pond and St. Teresa's School, 5 to 7:30, and an open house for Rennies River, Bannerman, 5 to 7:30. All that stuff's on the internet, but I want to bring it to people's attention. I also want to give a shout out. The speed camera is now installed on Larkisle, pretty close to Learysbrook Junior High, of course, around the corner from Larkisle Academy as well. So there's a lot of young people there. So again, if you needed another reason to not race through that neighborhood, now there's a ticket waiting for you if you do. As well, we got some speed humps installed, just again, working with the residents because it is a resident-driven process. Ladysmith and Kenmont Terrace, Finicum Street, Bear Place, Smithville Crescent, and East Empire is in the works as well. So, that's some progress I've been making, in conjunction with staff and with the residents, just to try and make the streets a little calmer. I was supposed to be a little earlier, but I don't want to steal Bev's thunder, but we were just down at St. Francis Assisi School in Outer Cove, and the Liberal government, and again, this is not, I don't want to make this political, but we're just so happy that the results of Bev, my wife Bev, and her team, we've got the Kids in Know program now, K-9, in all the schools in the province. By October, all the teachers from K-9 will have been trained in teaching the body safety, and it's fully integrated in the schools. But I'm going to let her talk about it. I know she's going to call and talk about it, but I just to see Bev's face, light up, interacting with the teachers that are teaching it and looking at the different things that are the different teaching aids that are in the schools, and the teachers just so happy and proud and to be able to have this resource available. So it's, again, just a beautiful thing. And when I keep saying this whenever I'm in these rooms, politicians and teachers and administrators can only do so much. It needs to get out into the community. With a lot of these issues that a lot of people call problems are really symptoms of societal breakdown and different things that are happening in the family unit and all that stuff. So, whether it's talking to your children about drugs and online safety and child abuse, there are resources within this Kids in the Know program to help parents and caregivers and grandparents be able to navigate this crazy time that we're all living in, and our children are, I don't know how they do it. I'm blessed to have had my children raised, but grandchildren hopefully will be around the corner. So, it's just a couple of things I just want to mention very quickly. I know Bianca Lona was on talking earlier about the hospitality tax. Technically, an Airbnb would qualify or could qualify as hospitality, and the owner could be charging the tax. They need to register with the city, and we will then get that 4 or 5%. I think she's definitely looking at some great opportunity there for the municipalities that do collect hospitality tax, including the city, to get more income, to level the playing field. However, the province is the group that has to register, and then we can pick up from that. So just so people who have Airbnbs know, or long-term rentals, short-term rentals, whatever you want to call them, if you don't register and you're caught, you can be fined up to $2,000. So that's within provincial legislation. So, again, I know you got to get on to Wally, but listen, I appreciate everyone, and, everybody stay safe and enjoy this summer that does not want to stop.
That's the good news, in addition to some of the questionable news that we're talking about. I appreciate the time, Tom. Thanks a lot.
Take care, everyone.
Good luck out there. Bye-bye. All right, final thoughts this morning. Go to line number 4. Good morning, Wally Childs. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Great today. Thank you. How about you?
Great. I'd like to thank Mr. Din for stealing my crib notes. and when he was on a few minutes ago. So I'm not going to echo all that again, Patty, because I think he spoke very well about that. I would like to challenge Mr. Dinh, though, and his party, as well as the Liberal Party. He did say that if this is not in place, we're failing our kids. Well, Mr. Dinh, your party could be in power come October. So, let's see how those words play out, right, Patty? The demonstration this morning, Patty, I just wanted to call in to give you an update on that. We had between 30, 40 parents turn out. A lot of parents of our neurodivergent special needs children, and a lot of parents that didn't have neurodivergent children. A lot of community members came out. We had some news medias covering the outlets, so it was a very good demonstration to start this conversation about where we need to go from here in terms of support. Love to hear from Minister Davis on this. He did have his local candidate, Jeff Young, there, who did really well chatting with people. And Mr. Wakeham had his constituency assistant there. And, of course, he could be our MHA in this area, as well as maybe our next premier. So, it's very important. I want to challenge everybody. Make sure these people keep these issues front and center, Patty.
Agreed. And I'm glad you said that there was parents of children who were not neurodivergent in attendance, because the reality is, if you speak to any family who has a child in any classroom where some supports are not in place, it impacts the entire classroom. We're now asking teachers to be able to, shuffle a bunch of different requirements for different types of students, as opposed to the assistants doing their job. So consequently, every bit of curriculum delivery gets interrupted if those supports are not in the classroom, which impacts every child in that classroom.
Absolutely. So it was great to hear from all these parents, but especially the parents of the neurodivergent. I believe Debbie O'Neill was on yesterday talking about her son, and she relayed a story to us about support that she doesn't feel he's getting, and she was very emotional about it, and a few of the other parents got very emotional because, this is their children. This is, Patty, we can talk about, I know Paul Dinh there mentioned the Time Is Now report and things like that and all the recommendations. And again, there's lots of good words, but any initiative, any programs is not going to go ahead without the human resources in place. And Patty, right now at Stephenville Primary, we do not have those human resources in place. So we need the minister to step up. Jordan's principal, I'm told that Jordan's principal has got 500 hours coming to the province daily, which, this area would likely get the fair share of that. But why can't the provincial government give that to us and then they get reimbursed? Why do we have to wait on the backs of these children who, some of these kids are not even in school yet? So we're waiting for that. So I challenge that. But Patty, I just want to give a quick word about Jordan's principal, because they've been fantastic to us ever since I've started 10 years ago when they first started, helping out the First Nations children. Jordan's principal is fantastic, but when you talk about children who should be receiving support in the schools, all children should receive support. All children matter, Patty, and they should be receiving support. And Jordan's principle shouldn't come off the lips of anybody unless it's for additional supports. We shouldn't have to be waiting for them to, give time to First Nations children so that the other children then can avail of what's given to us. Department of Education, this is the children that need help. You're responsible, not Jordan's principal.
Fair enough. Point made by email. These supports not only need to be in place on day one of school, but a week in advance, so that families can meet with those support assistants so they know exactly who the child is, what their needs are, to be prepared going in, as opposed to starting from scratch on day one. That's an important point that someone just made via email.
Absolutely. And I challenge that, not just a week in advance. Patty, we need to know this. My grandson was approved for the special needs bus back in April, and he's still not on the special needs bus because now there's no special seatbelt for him or for a number of the other students. So that was 5 months ago, Patty. So this is, what I challenged, this morning we talked about, we need support now. Number one, we need it right now. Number two, we need a commitment going forward. It doesn't matter, Liberal, PC, NDP. It doesn't matter who's in there. We need that commitment to say, you know what, we're not going to fight this every September. Like, come on, there's got to be a better way of dealing with this.
100%, no argument from me. Wally, good on you for organising the protest this morning, and I appreciate your time this morning as well.
Absolutely. Patty, if I could take 5 seconds, just want to give a big shout out to your news person, Sarah Strickland. Sarah is a former student of mine, and we always tell our students, I've always told them that follow what makes you happy and find your niche. And I guarantee you, it sounds like she certainly found her niche with you guys, Patty.
Yeah, she just gave me the thumbs up through the window here between our studios, so she appreciates that very much, Wally. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Patty. Have a great day, guys.
Same to you. Bye-bye. All right, good show today. Big thanks to all hands. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.